Hey there, comic book community. My name is Joe, and this is 360 Comics. Today, I am bringing you a list of 10 Marvel key issues that I think have some potential as it pertains to the MCU, all of which can be had for under $20, and some can even be found in dollar bins. Congratulations to Caleb Leland for winning this book right here, Secret Wars #1, as part of our 2,000 subscriber giveaway right here on YouTube. I've got another giveaway coming up on Instagram for 8,000 followers, so go check me out there if you haven't yet, and stay tuned here on YouTube as well, because I'm going to start doing weekly giveaways in the month of September. I tried to take all types of collectors into account when making this video, so although these books have speculative potential in my opinion, they are also great for reading and collecting as well if that's more your thing, and all of them are affordable, less than $20 a piece, and like I said before, some of these books can be found pretty regularly in dollar bins. That being said, I just want to note that nothing in this video is financial advice. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. You should spend your money as you want, buy things you like. These are just my thoughts on these books. Before we get into the video, just a quick shout out to my man Chris over at Journos Comics and Pop Culture for making me the images seen in this video. I do not have much artistic skills, but he's got them and he put these together for me, so thank you to him for making this video look great. And without further ado, let's get into the first book. I'm talking about Fantastic Four number 284. Now, this is a great story, almost like a coming-of-age story for Sue Storm, aka Sue Richards, aka the Invisible Girl, who becomes the Invisible Woman in this issue. She sheds that old name, the Invisible Girl. She goes through a traumatic experience, definitely some, like I said, coming of age, some maturing, some strengthening. And after that experience, she feels as though she no longer sees herself as a girl. She's lost that innocence and she wants to be called a woman. She goes by the name Invisible Woman from this point on. And I've been telling people about this book. And in fact, I actually was not aware until fairly recently, just really the last few years, that she really went by the Invisible Girl for that long. Because being born in the 90s, I really only knew her as the Invisible Woman because this change took place in the 1980s. Now, as far as the MCU goes, we know we're getting the Fantastic Four, and of course, we're getting Sue as well. And I think they're probably going to position her as the Invisible Woman rather than the Invisible Girl. We've seen John Krasinski as Reed Richards. Obviously, he is an older actor, and it would be weird if he was married to a girl, so they will probably use the woman name instead. Moving on to the next book, and this is one of my favorites right here. You all know how much I love X-Men. We've got X-Men number 450. Not only is this a return of Chris Claremont to the original Uncanny X-Men run, it is also the first in-continuity appearance of X-23 and her first meeting and battle with Wolverine, and she meets the rest of the X-Men in the next issue. It's an amazing story by Claremont, and it's very, very significant. Obviously, if you know about this character, she appeared first in NYX number 3, which has grown to be an incredibly expensive book, and it's not even in Marvel continuity. Definitely something to note, because a lot of people like to pick up the books that are in continuity, especially when they're so much more affordable than a character's first overall appearance. I think this is a great book. I love the cover with that, the double-bladed claw of X-23, Laura Kinney, and, the rest of the X-Men looking on in the background, seemingly horrified about this young female character. Definitely a great character. If you saw Logan, that portrayal was absolutely amazing, and I hope that she does come to the MCU. In fact, I really think that this character will eventually show up. We got a whole lot of Wolverine in the Fox X-Men series, so it makes sense to eventually transfer over to this character rather than, I hate to say it, but beating the dead horse. Doing Wolverine movie after Wolverine movie. As much as I loved seeing Hugh Jackman portray the character for, like 15 years or something like that, it maybe was time to move on to a different version of the character. And I think this would be a great way to do so. Up next, we've got Avengers Annual number 21. You've probably seen these blue bordered annuals from 1991 or 1992 rather in like dollar bins everywhere. But they actually are a really great storyline as far as the read goes. It's called Citizen Kang, and obviously has to do with Kang the Conqueror, who we know is coming to the MCU. This book in particular caught my eye as probably the best in this storyline. It's the first appearance of the Anachronauts, who they're a mercenary group hired by Kang. But I think even more importantly than that is it's the first time that Kang uses the alias Victor Timely. We know that Kang has many forms: Nathaniel Richards, Iron Lad, Immortus, Kang himself, Ramatut, He Who Remains, tons of different characters. But I think this one is a really great way in order to introduce him to the street level Marvel characters. In the Kang and Immortus form and stuff like that, all of the cosmic and the temporal and the magic users of the MCU, it makes sense to meet him in one of those more extreme forms. But this version, Victor Timely, who is a businessman, it makes a lot of sense for this kind of undercover version to show up to those street level characters. I really hope they utilize this aspect of the storyline in the MCU, and I think it would just pan out really, really nicely. And I think this book is a great pickup, and definitely gives some background on the Kang character if you're looking to read up before he comes to the MCU in full. Next up, we've got ASM number 195. This is the second appearance of Black Cat, and in my opinion, Black Cat keys are a no-brainer. She is probably the biggest character in Spider-Man lore that has not been formally utilized in the films. Every other major character really has shown up, with the exception of her and Hobgoblin. And in my opinion, I think she is more significant than Hobgoblin, just because she not only was a villain, but also an ally, a partner, a love interest. She has a lot of different forms. They can do so much with her in the movies. So I really hope that they do utilize this character at some point. She was originally supposed to be in the Tobey Maguire movies. That was ended up being, canceled out. They didn't do the fourth movie, so, she didn't show up. She was supposed to be in the third Andrew Garfield movie. Now, she did show up at one point in the second one, but it wasn't her as Black Cat. It was just her regular persona as Felicia Hardy, and they never got to Black Cat with her. And there was also a Sony movie that was canceled and then kind of rebooted as her and Silver Sable, and then canceled again, so that never happened. Who knows what's going to happen? Sony's kind of up in the air right now. I totally hope that she comes to the MCU rather than coming to the Sonyverse, but we can't always get what we want. We'll have to see what happens, and maybe Sony can do her justice. Moving on now, we've got X-Men Annual number 13, and this is the second appearance and first cover appearance of Jubilee. This is a character who I've spoken about in a bunch of my Spec videos. Her first appearance in X-Men 244 is definitely a little bit outside of the $20 price range, so I couldn't include that here, but certainly her second appearance and first cover appearance would be a viable option. And this is a book that I've found in dollar bins plenty over the last year or two. It's also the debut of her pink sunglasses, which is, really a memorable part of her costume, especially having grown up in the 90s watching these X-Men animated series. I think they're going to play on the nostalgia of people, around my age, give or take 10 years, who grew up watching that show and utilize a lot of those characters that are seen in that cast. And Jubilee is certainly one of the most significant ones, and really really hasn't been done justice in the films yet. So I hope that happens. And this book is a great way to get in for a cheap price on this character. Next up, we've got Avengers number 231. This is the first meeting of two characters who have recently entered the MCU. We have Eros, aka Star Fox, who appeared in the end credits scene of the Eternals, played by Harry Styles. He's the brother of Thanos and a more cosmic character. And then we have She-Hulk, who just appeared for the first time last week in her own television show on Disney+. And I'll tell you, I loved the first episode. I thought it was great. These two characters have an on and off again relationship during decades of Marvel Comics. So I think it is, a no-brainer that they're probably going to get together at some point in the MCU, especially given the dynamics of these characters. We have, Eros, this like charming, handsome ladies' man, kind of cocky, and then we have She-Hulk, this really independent woman, strong, fierce, as we've seen her in the first episode of the show, giving us her origin story. And I think that would be really great paired together in the MCU, kind of as, a conflicting couple. I think it would be a really great thing. So this is their first meeting, and I could see it becoming a more significant book if these two meet, which they probably will, and especially if they end up in a relationship. The next book on the list is ARANA number 1. Now, in my last Spec video, I talked about Arana's first appearance, which is Amazing Fantasy number 1. No, not the one from the Silver Age. I'm talking about the one from the early 2000s. Her first appearance has become pretty expensive at this point, even raw copies selling for $50, $60, and 9/8 well over the $200 mark. But this is her first solo book, and it is a very solid read in my opinion. And it can be had for about $10 at most comic shops. I've picked up a couple copies over the last couple months to go with my Amazing Fantasy ones that I've picked up. So, I'm hoping to see this character. We could see her in a lot of different places across the Spider-Verse or across the Spider-Verse 2 or whatever that movie is going to be called. Definitely she could show up in there as she is a spider character. There's also the Madam Web movie. There's also the MCU. There's also the rest of the Sony universe. Who knows what could happen with this character. I think that she could be utilized very nicely. Being a female character and a Hispanic character. I think that, Marvel tries to go for some diversity and give everyone some representation, a character that they can relate to, which I think is a great thing. And she is a perfect character to add to the Spider-Verse or just the MCU in general. Moving on, we've got another character that would definitely add a diversity element to the storyline. We've got New X-Men number 133. This is the first appearance of Dust, and she is a character of the Islamic faith. As you can see, she is wearing a burqa on the cover of this comic, and that is the traditional Islamic garb that women wear and covers pretty much their entire body, just allows for their eyes to be shown and so they can see and all. And, given that we've seen Miss Marvel, another character, Muslim character, who is also a mutant, as we found out in the last episode of the show, I think there could be a nice little friendship going between these two. They have a lot in common, and, that relatability to each other could cause them to, possibly team up together, work together, become friends. So I think this would be a really cool character to introduce, even as a minor role supporting, Kamala Khan, who's certainly the more major of the two characters. Then on to the second to last book, we've got a book that, oh man, it's near and dear to my heart because I grew up in the 90s. I started buying comics in 1995 and was dropped right into the middle of the Clone Saga. We've got Spider-Man number 51. That is from the Todd McFarlane originated Spider-Man run from 1990. This has an awesome foil cover, but also has a printing that does not have foil on the cover. Look out for that one. It's a little bit more rare. Same with newsstands, obviously from a mid-90s these books. They're a little bit harder to find, so keep an eye out for those. But this is the first time that the clone of Spider-Man ever uses the name Ben Reilly. I have found this book in dollar bins as recently as a couple months ago, but the book has been heating up recently, especially with Scarlet Spider being seen on a board game that was recently released that has the characters from Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse on the cover, including Miles, Peter, Spider-Gwen, and the Spot, who is now confirmed as a villain in that movie, and I believe Miguel O'Hara is on that cover as well. So that being said, it is very, very possible, and in fact, I would say it is likely at this point that Scarlet Spider is showing up in Into the Spider-Verse. Man, I hope so. I love me some Ben Reilly. And not only that, but he's also in the current run of comics being reimagined as a villain named Chasm. Love that stuff, progression of the character, and this is someone that I grew up really, really enjoying, so definitely a book that is near and dear to my heart. This one might not be in dollar bins for long, though. I have seen sales have gone up, the value of this book has gone up, but I bet there are still some out there. Might be a good idea to grab some while they're still there. On to the last book of the bunch here. We've got Avengers number 243. This is the first ever mention of the West Coast Avengers. They do not appear. They are not, a team at this point, but they are mentioned, and they do obviously appear later on in their first solo run. It was a limited series, 4 issues at first, and then they got an ongoing series. This team of Avengers on the West Coast, led by Hawkeye, were really prominent in the late 80s into the early 90s, and spawned some really cool characters such as the code name of Rhodey becoming War Machine, and the White Vision, and they had a bunch of characters that are being utilized in the movies right now. Scarlet Witch was a major factor, as well as Moon Knight was a member for a while, and of course Clint Barton, the leader of it all, Hawkeye. He's still around in the MCU. I could see him becoming kind of like the Nick Fury of a young Avengers / West Coast Avengers team. I think that would be a really cool turn for the MCU. And we know the Avengers are going to be around because we have 2 Avengers movies coming out in Phase 6. We have Avengers Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars. So there is going to be an Avengers team. We don't know if they're going to be called the Avengers, or if they're going to be called West Coast Avengers or Young Avengers. I think they'll probably just utilize the Avengers name, but they will probably have aspects from the comic books of one or more of those teams. So for that reason, this first mention of the West Coast Avengers team, I think is a really cool book. It's a little kind of like a preview almost to that, their first official appearance. And this book can be found in dollar bins. I've found plenty of them. In fact, in doing research for this video, there's one on eBay right now for $8.99 that has a Mark Jewelers insert. For a key issue, $8.99, not too, or it's actually $7.99, I think it was. I think it was $8. So, if that's something you're interested in, go check that out on eBay. I'm not telling you what to buy, but if you do buy it, I'd be curious to know. Leave a comment and let me know that you bought it. I hope you enjoyed this list. There were some really cool books that I've been picking up for a while. I own multiple copies of every single book on this list. I really practice what I preach. I don't try to talk about books that I am not buying myself, because why would I think they're good spec books if I wasn't buying them, or why it doesn't make any sense. So that being said, I try to pick books that other people are not talking about. Anyone can go ahead and say, Young Avengers 1 is a good book because first appearance of Kate Bishop, she's in the MCU now. Yeah, she's probably going to play a major role, but that's an obvious book. These are a little bit, more under the radar, and they're very affordable, so I try to put these on the list. Hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please like this video, leave a comment down below, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, you're going to want to do so, and turn those notifications on, because I am going to be doing weekly giveaways for at least the month of September, and I might extend that longer if there are some good results, if people enjoy that. So, Do all that stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, turn the page, wash your hands.